Thank you, Chairman Meadows, and I'd like to also thank the panel for being here today. We appreciate it very much. Mr. Dodaro, good to see you again. And I'd like to commend you on the work that you do and the work that the GAO does. It's very impressive. I'm a career businessman from the private sector, and I, for one, can appreciate what your department does. Many times unsung, many times reports probably not read, but I share Mr. Palmer's zest for reading your reports, and I think it's extremely important to the taxpayers in this country, the job that you do. So thank you very much.
Thank you for those comments.
I'd like to, as opposed to digging into the details today, if you and I could just go to the 60,000-foot level, I would appreciate that. I'd like to ask you a couple questions. I'm very interested. And I think my constituents are interested in your answers, and the taxpayers are as well. First question, has the Federal Government, in your estimation, your opinion, grown so large, so big, that it cannot effectively, that's the key word, be managed any longer? Because as a businessman, I see this time and time again, and I'm coming to the conclusion it's so large it can't be managed. What's your opinion of that?
There are definitely challenges in this regard. Some of the Federal entities are very large entities. The Department of Defense, for example, IRS is a large agency, HHS is huge, all three agencies represented today. But in my view, that there are good management practices that could be taken and to effectively manage these departments and agencies, but there are not consistently applied management practices that should be made that are made, and as a result, you don't have as good of effective management as you should to be able to do this.
Great point, great point. What needs to change? What needs to happen so that we apply management practices to this huge bureaucracy that we have here? What needs to change, in your estimation?
Yeah, no.
That's a very good point you raise.
Yeah, no, and it's a fair question. I think part of the issue is there needs to be stronger congressional oversight over the process. You know, when you think about it, the executive branch agencies, and we're about ready to have this happen again, every change in administration, you take out your top 3,000 political appointees and put all new people in there in these agencies. There are vacancies that occur over time. You know, nobody in the private sector would take your top-tier management all at once and move them out.
Correct.
But that's part of our democracy, and it's part of what happens. But Congress has a role for continuity purposes, for confirming new people to lead these agencies. I think there has to be more attention by the executive branch on management capabilities and experiences of people who were put into these positions to manage them, that they have the right qualifications, they have the right experience, and that there needs to be proper oversight and stewardship by the Congress to ensure that they effectively carry out their responsibilities. And the President needs to pay attention to management issues as well as policy matters when they come into place. And so this whole notion of management often gets a second-class status compared to policy orientations, and that's a fundamental problem that plagues a lot of agencies.
We're going to spend nearly $4 trillion of our citizens' money this next 12 months. What percentage do you think is ineffectively spent or is wasted due to things like duplication of services, due to waste, fraud, abuse? Because Strong America Now estimates it's as high as 30% in the Federal Government. What's your estimation? Because you're here every day. You see it every day. You're in the belly of the beast, so to speak.
Yeah, right. It's hard to give you a good figure, but here's the way I look at it, all right? The way I look at it is we have the latest estimate of improper payments was $137 billion for 15. Since improper payments have been required to be reported by the Congress, it's over $1 trillion in improper payments. So you have a lot of money going out the door that perhaps shouldn't be going out the door. Most of that's overpayments, not underpayments. You have tax gap that we talked about briefly earlier, $385 billion, and that tax gap, according to IRS's last estimate, I'm anxious to see what the new figure will be when it's released. That's a lot of money that should be coming in the door that's not coming in the door. And the duplication, tens of billions of dollars in additional money could be saved.
A billion here and there adds up, doesn't it?
Fast.
And my last question to you is, what do we need to do as a Congress as a government to help make GAO, which I think is outstanding, by the way, more effective?
Well, we need.
What can we do?
Well, we need your support to implement our recommendations. I do that number one. Most people in my position would say, give me more money. But I'd say implement our recommendations and work with us more. Congress is a great partner with us. We don't have any enforcement authority at the GAO. We can't compel people to implement our recommendations, but Congress can, and that's our enforcement approach.
My time is up, and once again, I'd like to commend you on the great job that your organization does. And I yield back the time I don't have, Mr. Chairman.